thought that they should explain in English, first of all, what they're going to sing. So just in case you wonder what's going on when God produces this.
Well, good evening, everyone. We've got a small crowd here in Ardgour, and some watching the live stream, and maybe you're watching the recording afterwards. We're delighted to welcome Ken Ross. I've known of Ken for a number of years. He must be a wee bit older than me because he was in the youth fellowship and I was in Bible class. Both originally hailing from Mogai. But delighted to welcome you to almost the other end of the West Highland Way. Up here. Welcome to Ardgour. Let's begin with a word of prayer. Let's pray. Lord of all creation, of all countries, of everywhere, we thank you that you are our God and that you call us in so many different ways to different avenues of service and different ways in which we can encourage others. We thank you for bringing Ken into our midst this night. Bless us as we listen to his story of work in Malawi, in Africa, for the opportunities to share your goodness and love, encouraging education, learning, that many come to know of your love. This we ask in Jesus' name. And to put us in the African mood, a little bit of music for us now.
The song we are about to hear is titled Buyem Kalenafe, meaning Lord be with us. This song is a prayer asking our Lord to be with us as we preach, to be with us as we sing, to be with us as we are walking as believers, to be with us in each and every activity that we do. For we are aware that without His love, without the Spirit of God, without the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of truth, our guider, we are nothing. We only depend on the power of the Holy Spirit.
over to you, Ken.
Well,
Welcome.
thanks.
And good evening, everyone. Let me say at the beginning, it's really a great pleasure to be here, and I'd like to extend that to those who are with us remotely. Correct me if I've got the geography wrong, but I think there could be people in Strontian, Morven, Achanacle, and Ardnamurchan. So if anyone's joining from there, it's a great pleasure to be with you. And this is the first day in a week that I'm spending with Claire Aylan E., the new presbytery of the Highlands and Islands. And the presbytery in its wisdom obviously thought that Ardgour was the most important place in the entire area. So this is where I should start. And it's, especially on an evening like this, it's really wonderful to be here with you. And I should explain, I'm not here alone. I've got my choir with me, who you've just been hearing. So this was the choir of Zomba Theological University, which I'll be talking about this evening. And we every morning at the university we have morning prayers, but the highlight of the week, at least for me, is on Friday. This choir always sings, and the African church, if it's anything, it's a singing church. People love to sing, so I thought I wouldn't really represent them properly if I just came and did talking. We had to have some song, and they were very excited to make this recording that I could bring to occasions like this one. So please receive the greetings from my friends, our students in the choir. But this takes me really to our topic this evening. This is where I'm based in Malawi, in Africa, an institution called Zomba Theological University. Here we go. I never expect these things to work, but it seems to be like clockwork. So what we're going to be thinking about in this evening, oh, sorry about this, now my phone's misbehaving. We're going to be looking at what is just a budding relationship between the Claire Aylan E. and Zomba Theological University. But although this is a new thing that's just emerging, I have called it here a new chapter in a long story. So if I want to go back to what I think might be the beginning of the story, it goes back to the year 1792 and the Isle of Alva. Has anybody here ever been to Alva? You have, Fiona? Ah, lucky you.
Yes.
Yeah,
Really lovely.
a lovely island.
And fertile too.
Fertile, yes. And at one time it was the home to 600 people. But like many parts of Scotland at that time, their staple crop had become the potato. So they were very dependent on the success of the potato crop. And in 1792 it failed badly. And so it was quite a big drama that almost the whole population of the island had to leave. Quite a lot of them went to America at that time. But there was one couple, Neil and Mary Livingston, who didn't go so far. They went to Lanarkshire, to the town of Blantyre, which at that time was just starting to have a cotton mill on the River Clyde. And so there was new industry starting in Scotland. So for a family like this who had to leave their original home, they found the opportunity. Now, I better fast forward a bit here, because in 1813, their grandson David was born at Blantyre, and that was the start of a long story for Malawi and Scotland. And I'm sure I don't need to say too much about David Livingstone and his travels in southern Africa, except to say that they did forge a bond between Malawi and Scotland, which was very influential in the 19th century, but has also continued. It's been an enduring kind of relationship up until the present day. So this is the short sound between the Isle of Ulva and the Isle of Mull. And I think this is where Neil and Mary must have crossed that day, when they had to take the decision to leave their island home and make their way to Lanarkshire. And then their grandson was a very brilliant young man, kind of against the odds, qualified as a medical doctor, but also had a strong faith as a young man, and a sense of calling to the kind of missionary enterprise that was getting going at that time. So he came to stand for things that are still very important to Malawians today. He was always very open about his faith being the driving force of his life and his inspiration, but he also became for his passion for justice and freedom, especially in relation to the slave trade that was being quite prevalent in the area where Malawi is now. So with his Christian faith and his understanding of humanity, he was very disturbed about people being captured and taken into slavery, and that became the big cause of his life, to resist that and to look towards having a just society and a society that would give freedom and opportunity to everyone. And it was really out of that vision that Malawi came to be formed. He was trying to find a place in Africa where some Scots could come and play their part in this process of overcoming injustice and oppression, and building a better future for Malawians. And this became a vision that has inspired the two countries. And it might seem as if it's kind of Scotland helping out Malawi, but it was always two-way. The Scots who got involved, they always found great inspiration in Malawi. And one thing I think that's often neglected about Livingstone and the many accounts there are of his life is he had a genius for friendship. So wherever he traveled in Africa, he made friends, and the friendships endured, and it kind of paved the way. Even although the colonial period was not great for African people, and in a way they got on the receiving end of more injustice. But even in the midst of that, friendship continued. And now that we got into the 21st century, far from being left behind, the relations of the two countries have renewed. So from the Scottish government down to a lot of local community initiatives, there's been a lot of active connection in the 21st century. And all along, the church has been at the heart of this story. And I'm showing off one of my books here because I've been quite involved in writing about this. But again, I'm making the story very short. After Livingstone's death, there were a number of Scots who were inspired. They had to go to Africa and continue what he had started. And it was really out of that the foundations were laid for the Presbyterian Church, which today has more than 3 million members, and now organized in 103 presbyteries. So it's become a big church, actually much bigger than the Church of Scotland is now. So the daughter kind of outgrew the mother, which can happen. But while it's it's a very Malawian church, and it's doing things in a Malawian way, and very grounded in its own context, it still has these Scottish origins built into its identity. So people continue to be very aware of their connection with Scotland, and especially the work that was done to get their church started. And one thing that for more than 100 years has been at the core of Scottish involvement with Malawi has been aiming to raise the level of theological education. And so that's the piece that I'm involved in, and that you're going to hear more about. So I'm only a kind of small contributor at the end of a long story, and a whole succession of people who've been involved in this, but believing that theological education is a key resource for the church, and for giving the church strength and maturity, and something where we hope from our experience and involvement in Scotland, something that we can share with our friends. So the institution where I am, I'll call it ZTU for short, because it's a bit of a mouthful. It is the heir to more than a century of shared endeavour. So I won't go into all the institutional history, but different efforts, different institutions, different colleges that were formed at different times. What they have funneled into today is this university institution, and it's what it was doing for a lot of its history was training ministers. So it was really like a seminary for training ministers, and not many other students were enrolled. Primarily for the Presbyterian, but it's always been ecumenical as well. So it trains ministers for other churches too. But then just fairly recently, in 2022, it became a university. And it's not, it's probably not what you would imagine a university to be, like a huge institution with 10,000 students that's teaching every different discipline you can imagine. It's still quite a small institution, and it's still focused on theology as what it teaches. But the way the educational landscape went, if you wanted to look like you're a serious tertiary education institution, you really had to be called a university. It's just the way that it has gone. So there had to be a name change in 2022. But this was not just cosmetic to kind of try and look good. It was also positioning the institution to meet a growing demand for postgraduate studies. So Malawi today has many challenges to face, and whether we look at the church or the nation, there's a need for visionary and creative leaders. And so the hope is that you're going beyond a first degree and doing postgraduate studies can enable people to sharpen their intellectual capacity and their preparedness and equipment to give leadership in a challenging situation. So there's a big demand for people who want to go further and higher in their education, and this is what we're trying to meet. And so the last few years, what has been keeping me out of mischief has been starting master's degree programs. And we have 3 tracks, which I'll just explain briefly. But what holds them together is the degree is in what we call contextual theology. So it's about thinking through the meaning of the faith in the situation where we are. And so in a lot of the earlier times, Malawians kind of in their when they went to college, they received the kind of teaching and the kind of curriculum that had been developed in Scotland and places like it, which was good, but where it needs to go further is in applying it and thinking it through in relation to their particular context. So that's the kind of unifying factor in a number of different programs. So here is the bunch of students that enrolled when we started what we call the taught track in 2022. So this is a master's program that has classes for quite a bit of it. And this was a group that we hoped would make history starting in 2022. And then the next year we started a master's by research. So that has no classes, and it's each student working individually on a chosen research topic with guidance and supervision. So that was a second track. And then just this year, we have started another track, which is 100% online. So here we are, we're an online community tonight. And this is something we're attempting also in Malawi. And it has a special emphasis on what we call theological education for the economy of life, faith and political renewal. So it's much about relating faith to economic challenges and to the political realm. So there are 10 students on this online program, and at the moment meeting twice each week online. So in all of these programs, the students are part-time. So they continue in their regular jobs. Quite a number are ministers, but there's also teachers, police officers, military officers, government, civil servants, So people with different callings, but they continue in their work, and they use leave time and weekends and evenings for their studies. So the taught track, they come to ZTU 6 times each year for intensive residential sessions, usually between 3 and 5 days. So that's when we deliver the classes, and normally they'll go away with assignments to do, and they'll bring them back completed. And for their degree, 50% of it is what they do in their classwork, and the other 50% is writing a dissertation, which they do at the end of the classwork. And then the research track, students, as I said, they're working more independently, pursuing their own individual research topics. But they come twice a year for our residency and just have some time on campus, time to interact with faculty and with each other. So although they're working independently a lot of the time, they also have a sense of community as well. And for the online masters, for them it's Zoom meetings that they depend on. So it's usually on a Monday and a Wednesday that they come together online, and it can be challenging. Our technology is probably not as strong as it is here. The network can be shaky at times, and individual students' equipment sometimes lets them down. But we see this very much as the way things will go in the future. So we're trying our best to work with it. We put quite an emphasis on peer learning. Many of the students are mature students, so they have a lot of experience that they can bring into the programs. So we do encourage them to bond with each other and find opportunities to learn from each other's perspectives and experiences. Another emphasis is on opportunities for women, because until fairly recently, in fact I could probably say even until now, there was a strong bias towards men when it came to having opportunities for theological education. It's only this year is 25 years since the first ordination of a woman to the ministry, and women in ministry are still very much in a minority. So it's one of the missions of the university is to have greater women enrollment and opportunities for women to train and also to join the faculty, because our faculty is very unbalanced in terms of gender. So that's one significant emphasis in what's going on. We hope that the studies are challenging and relevant. We do draw on global scholarship, trying to get the students to a level where they could engage in the international academic community, but at the same time very much rooted in the Malawi context. So we're always relating our discussions to the situation on the ground in Malawi, and the students in their research topics, they more often than not take local Malawian realities as the topics for their research. This first group that we saw starting in 2022, they're happily getting to the finishing stage. So this was just a few weeks ago. This is a student called Ruth Chatalera, and she had her oral examination, what we call the Viva, and here she is in celebratory mode at the end of it. So we're hoping that this year we'll have quite a number of moments like this one. And also this year we had our very first graduates from the taught track program. And these two, this is Tokozani on the left and Hastings on the right. I think I'm quite confident that they're going to be significant leaders in Malawi, in church, in education, in society. So this is really what it's all about, is people like these two being ready to serve their church and serve their country. So we're excited that graduations have started, and we hope that there's going to be many more. And with that in view, we are currently building. So when we started the program, we didn't really have accommodation for it. We did have accommodation for the undergraduates, but we've just had to kind of squeeze them into corners or wait until there's a classroom that's not being used or something like that. And well, we managed to get a number of students to completion, but we realized it wasn't really satisfactory just to be squeezing them into corners. So we're in the process of building a dedicated facility, what we'll call the Postgraduate Studies Centre, and it's been since October. There's been active work on the construction. It's not a totally new building. It's actually repurposing some buildings that were there before, but they've been kind of totally stripped back and redesigned. So the building facing us behind the cement mixer will be classroom accommodation, different sizes of rooms for class time, and the building on the left, the brick building, is going to be a cafeteria, so students can come and be there, and they can have food and drink when they need it, and then on the other side it's a kind of quadrangle. We're going to have 9 bedrooms, so. Because the students are part-time and they're only coming to campus from time to time, they need somewhere to sleep. So we'll have sleeping accommodation as well. So this is quite an exciting new development, and I think by the middle of this year we might well have it in use. So we've talked a lot about people, and the program is all about people and producing people and a new generation of leadership. But in this time that we're in, we have to be careful that we're not too human-centered. or anthropocentric, as they say, because we realize that there's been such a focus on humanity, human welfare and human ambition, that the environment has suffered a lot. So I know we're not the only ones doing this, but there is a big emphasis at ZTU now, and what we could say is moving beyond anthropocentric. Oh, Donald, I don't know if you're seeing this. It had a message came up saying auto sleep.
Would you like a drink of water?
I wouldn't mind, James, if I hadn't really realised my throat was a little bit dry, but yeah, I saw a little window popped up saying.
I think it's just on the screen here.
Right.
We're okay
There we go.
online.
Oh, we're back.
Yeah.
Right.
So we paused to sort out a technical problem here in the room. I think you're all okay online. Back with you in a moment.
Ah, thanks so much, Fiona. Thank you. It's welcome. Okay, good to go?
Yeah.
Well, we've sorted the screen and we've sorted the throat. So here we go. Yeah, I think I couldn't go through all the different bits of the theological curriculum, but I thought one that I should mention is theology is always in need of renewal, and it's always needing to be reframed and rethought and restated in relation to the situation that we're in. And it's one thing we're very aware of in Malawi is the environmental crisis. It's making its presence felt in Malawi, but of course it's a crisis for all of us because the earth itself is in jeopardy. So wherever we are, we do need to recover biblical teaching on the sacredness of creation and our calling to environmental stewardship. And here's a new kind of territory for Scots and Malawians who want to work together in rethinking faith and life and action. And we were saying earlier with David Livingstone, it began with a passion for justice. And there are a lot of justice elements in the environmental crisis. So, for example, Malawians, because of their way of life, they've contributed very little to the causes of the climate catastrophe. It's the industrialized nations that have done much more to cause the problem. And yet it's Malawi and places like it that are on the sharp end and are sometimes the ones who are suffering most. So that challenges us to think about our partnership and how we can use that to meet this unprecedented crisis that we have in the world today. And I'm glad to say our students are really passionate about this. They're ahead of the faculty. We have to kind of try and keep up with them, and they use this language of green theology. That's what they want to have, is green theology, and this is both in thought and action. So there is an academic dimension to it, thinking through the faith in relation to environment, but there's also a very practical, getting your hands dirty kind of aspect to it. And so the students have an aim to create a green campus. So there's a lot of activity in that direction, but as well as working right where we are on our own campus, they are also developing active outreach programs to equip churches and communities around us to meet the climate crisis. Now, this was just a few weeks ago. We had a visit from Cyclone Jude. You know, every storm has to have its own name now. So we had Jude coming in from the Indian Ocean. It wasn't the worst cyclone we've had, but it was enough to do some significant damage. And perhaps most worrying is it's becoming more of a regular thing. There were always some big storms. We know that from history, but it seems like there's a different pattern coming with more frequent and more regular storms. So tree planting is one thing. We do have some areas of trees on the campus, but also a lot of quite bare areas. So there's a big push to be planting trees, having a more wooded kind of campus, partly just to make the campus more eco-friendly, but also we've got a very central site in the city. So it's hoped that it will also be something of a model. Last year, the students decided to ban thin plastic on the campus, and the way to do this was not only to outlaw the thin plastic, but to manufacture cloth bags that could be reused. And so our students, they cause a bit of surprise because the thin plastic bags had just become ubiquitous. They were everywhere. You couldn't buy anything without getting a thin plastic bag. But now they're saying no, because we know how much damage the plastic does to the environment. So these are small steps in themselves, but we hope you put a lot of small things together and they become a big thing. And then the academic side of it, we're building up quite a strong section in the library looking at issues of environmental justice and eco-theology. And this was a day we set about creating a creed. Quite ambitious, but the students are hoping by the end of this year that they will have a green theology statement of faith, kind of modeled on some statements of faith that the church has made at crucial times, like the Barmen Declaration that was created at the time of the Nazi power in Germany, or the Belhar that was a confession of faith in the apartheid context in South Africa. So they're saying, well, now we have another crisis to meet with the natural environment being in jeopardy. So how do we express our faith in this context? So I hope maybe by the end of this year I might be able to send you a new confession of faith. So this is kind of coming to towards the end of the presentation, and then I hope we can have some good time for a blether. So this link or partnership between the presbytery here in Scotland and the university in Malawi When I was visiting last year, there were some discussions which resulted in the idea of the presbytery getting together to award a scholarship for a student, just like one of the master's students that we have seen. So the good news about this is higher education is much cheaper in Malawi than it is in the UK. So the cost for a year of master's study is around £1,500, which would break down roughly into about 1,000 for fees and 500 for the other costs. And that you might think, well, anybody could just do that with their spare cash. But just to give an indication of where an average person might be, the average minister's annual stipend is less than 1,500. So even if they could use their entire stipend, they wouldn't be able to cover it. And of course, with family life and just keeping things going, you can't just devote all your income to a study program. So to make it short, by far most Malawians they wouldn't be able to pay this kind of level to engage in the master's program. So it is something that's needed. There's no question there's a need for these kind of scholarships. And I hope we can also say that there's a value in the scholarships. So bright young Malawians like some of those we've seen on the screen with great leadership potential, they get the opportunity to do the master's degree that takes them to a higher level in their education, gives them more skills, different perspectives, and so they become better equipped than they were before to serve their church and society. So there's a benefit, definitely a benefit to the individual student who has a scholarship, but we hope as they're equipped and enabled to contribute, it's actually a benefit for the entire society. And then it helps also with the viability of the university, because it depends on enrolling students who pay fees to keep it going. So it has a kind of virtuous circle going on. And so the vision that is emerging, and I think Donald will keep me right if I'm not correct about this, but I think the Presbytery has officially adopted this now, that it's going to be in a strategic partnership with Zomba Theological University, and that it could involve many things, but a kind of core of it will be the annual award of a scholarship to a master's student selected by ZTU, and the way that we imagine this might happen is that there will be an invitation to congregations to contribute to the scholarship fund, and there might be a particular Sunday in the year where this will be a unified focus. There might be a retiring offering, but it could be any kind of fundraising initiative, and if each congregation could put together even small amount of money, when it's all put together, we hope it might be enough to fund one of these scholarships. That we hope will be a focal point, and for me, it's good because I could talk the whole night about ZTU and Malawi in general, but sometimes it's good to have something practical and have a focus and say, well, here's something we could do that would make a difference. So the Clare L&E is this is the first year that it's going to attempt this, so it's a bit experimental. But I'm hoping in my travels this week I can kind of fly the flag for it, and there'll be more online communications coming through in due course. And we hope this is what it will be all about, that it's a partnership that will be producing future leaders who can serve in Malawi and perhaps elsewhere. And so this is the proposed partnership that I'm here to represent. So that's just a brief introduction, and I think we're going to open the floor so that we can have a bit of discussion around it.
Thank you very much indeed, Ken, for very interesting, and hopefully that will encourage us all here and around Clare L&E to contribute just a little, which then becomes so much. Thank you to those who are online, and I hope you also can feel that you're part of the conversation. We won't be able to hear you, but do put your questions in the chat on YouTube. We're now in the room. We're now switching to that microphone there. Ken, you might want to come a little bit closer, and if anyone's got questions, then let's hear them. Questions, comments.
How many lecturers do you have on the course?
On the master's course, we have 5 who are full-time lecturers, but we also have 3 teaching assistants who are kind of hopefully going to come up and be the faculty in future. So we have to work in Malawi under the National Council of Higher Education, and to teach a master's course you have to have PhD qualification. So that's what limits us. At the moment, we've just got 5 that qualify, but we've got the others who are coming up, and will be able to do it in the future.
Bill in Ballachulish is asking, how many scholarships are you anticipating?
Well, if we can do 1, that would be terrific. I mean, this is the beginning, so we want to walk before we try to run. But if Clare L&E could produce 1 scholarship, it would be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm sure Bill and others have done the maths that £1,500 around 80 to 100 congregations around Clare L&E is not a lot.
Right.
But yes, one a year. How many years would a minister in training take in full?
It would probably be 3 to 4 years to complete, because it's part-time. If they were full-time, it would be a 2-year degree, but part-time it takes longer.
And Janet McKellar is online as well,
wow.
and reminding us that Pentecost Sunday has been designated Scholarship Sunday. is that the 8th of June? Janet will keep us right when Pentecost
Yeah,
Sunday
Easter
is.
was late, wasn't it,
uh,
this year? So it'll be in June. I
Yes,
think.
it'll be into June. Yeah. Any other questions, comments in the room or online?
It's obviously very expensive to be a student, and how do the students afford it? Coming up from wherever they come from in Malawi.
Yeah, no, you're right. It is relatively well. Let me put it in context, because right now I'm actually trying to help a Malawian who wants to take a master's at Edinburgh University, which is also good. You know, we want to have master's students in Malawi, but it's also good if some can have a different experience. But the fees for this student in Edinburgh, if he's successful, will be 31,500 for 1 year. And then they have to live here, you know, which is going to, you know what it's like living here. You need quite a lot of money for that as well. So I'm sure it's going to be over 40,000 to have one student come to Edinburgh. So against that, the 1,500 is actually quite small. I mean, we could do, what's 1,500 into 40? About 25 for the price of one in Scotland. But you're still right, Fiona, that for the individual person, it looks like a mountain for them to climb. If you know, if their income in a month, you know, for a lot of ministers, it would be less than £200 would be their income for the month, and they have to look after their children and you know, all the usual things of life. So it is nearly impossible to think about it on their own. So some get support from their churches. That can be a possibility. And we're always trying to find organisations that might be interested in sponsoring students. But it's a challenging economic environment. But without you know, without people getting better education and more skills and vision and initiative, it's probably not going to get any better. So we still see education as a critical tool to turn things for the better.
Bill is mentioning that his former church in Ayrshire supports a church on Likoma Island.
Oh, really?
And he says, just wondering if Ken has any contact with them.
Ah.
Are you familiar with
Well,
the
I
congregation in Likoma?
I am familiar, and I've met people from it. But no, all credit to Bill's church in Ayrshire, because that is one of the remote spots in Malawi. This is an island in Lake Malawi, but it's a well-populated island, and I don't think we have any current students who are from Likoma Island, but I have met people from there before.
Right.
Yeah.
Janet's confirming that Pentecost is on the 8th of June. I thought that
okay.
date rang a bell. Ken, is the anticipation that, you know, we might you know, get to know a particular student,
Right.
and, you know, would there be feedback, or is that problematic if, you know, a particular student is known to have friendship with well-wishers in Scotland?
No, it's a good question, Don, and you obviously realise the sensitivity of it. But I think if there is a sensitivity around it, I think it could be very good to get to know the person. I think it would make it much more personal, because tonight you've got me talking kind of about the prospective student in third person, but if they could speak for themselves, it would be much more vivid. And with this kind of technology, it's very possible. So I think we very much should take on board your point, Don. There needs to be sensitive, because in some way this person will become a privileged person. Yeah. It's like Fiona's saying, there's so many people who would love to have an opportunity like this, but inevitably, if it's one person, they've been given a rare opportunity. So it does need to be handled a bit sensitively. But for me, I think it would be really good to make it a living relationship, and we would depend on the technology. But just like we started with the choir, you could have either you could have them live, or you could have a recording. I think there would be good ways to interact.
Good. Are there some resources, materials, things that you can make available for us to enhance our worship on the 8th of June?
That is our plan. And in fact, it's interesting that Janet is there, because she's been encouraging this. So I think in some way you may have had a bit of a preview tonight, because we'll hope to have some visuals and some music, and perhaps also some words that could be used on the occasion. Yeah. So I guess congregations will vary. You're obviously well geared to using digital technology, but we could certainly have digital resources. We could also have other kinds of resources that could be useful where this is not applicable.
Excellent. And we do actually have that other wee video clip is queued up, so we can have sort of some more music in a moment. But are there any other questions, comments in the room or online? Well, let's go to that other video clip.
sing Gaelic songs
Yes, I
with somebody.
thought that.
Yeah, they call the line out, or
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, it's like that. You're quite right.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Ken. It's been a very interesting evening. And thank you to Janet and Bill and others who've been able to join us online.
Mm.
Thank you.
No,
Thank you
thank
very
you,
much.
thank you, everyone.
Very good.
Wherever I go, I always have books with me. That's the kind of tools of the trade. So there is a little book table if you like to have a look.
Thank you very much. Good night. God bless you all. Safe home.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, when it was walking the tree door, he did,
Yeah.
or calling the line in a psalm or pre-church service or something. That's what it reminds me
Yeah.
of. The introduction and the rest. Pick it up.
Well, it's changed now, but for a lot of the time they didn't have musical instruments.
You know.
So it's the a cappella kind of singing that is strong.